And good evening, one and all. Welcome to musicals101.com's I'll Say. I am musical theater historian John Kenrick.
And I am William J. McKay, a New York actor and a member of the Actors Studio and an equity member.
Oh, and we're going to have something to talk about the latest equity news later in this discussion.
It is quite the day, yes.
Oh, okay. Lord.
So in our first episode, we talked about the career, what we did, of Julie Andrews. Then the next week, we narrowed it down and talked about why do gays love Judy Garland. And then this week, we've narrowed it down even more, and we're going to talk about one moment of a musical would be a showstopper. I'm telling you, next week, we're going to talk about the costume stitching in Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812, as we keep narrowing things down. We're not really doing the stitching and the costumes, but
I'm really sure we can stick to a more enjoyable musical. Quite frankly. It was all right. It was a lot of sound and fury signifying very little.
Oh my God. I didn't mean to get you going on something like that. It was very nicely directed and I enjoyed it immensely. Moving on.
Yes.
So, showstoppers. All right. So almost, when I went to prepare this, I almost was going to say every little boy dreams of, and I said, stop doing that, Bill. Every child, boy and girl who's into athletics dreams of the big moment when they maybe get the Hail Mary pass and touchdown in football, or the big home run in a Super Bowl, or the penalty kick in soccer, or endless things for gold medals in the Olympics. But little boys and girls who want to be actors and older boys and girls who are actors, they, of course, dream of the awards, but they dream of the moment, if they're in a musical, of stopping the show. When they sing or do whatever they're doing and everybody goes and stops and applauds the show. And that is kind of an intro to what we're doing today, because everyone
absolutely
knows what a showstopper is
both you and I have had the pleasure of stopping shows in our amateur days. I know you stopped the show when you were in high school.
Yes,
when
I
you
didn't know
you sang Kids in Bye Bye Birdie, you were a showstopper.
Why am I being embarrassed by that?
No, you played the sound tape for me once. I heard it.
Okay.
And you were a showstopper. And when we did our production of Camelot, I had a reasonable showstopper with Seven Deadly Virtues when I played Mordred, and it went over beautifully. It was like, yeah.
Which therefore probably ruined us for life, because we therefore were hooked, and there goes hundreds of thousands of dollars in classes, etc. But moving on.
Listen, I want to make this very clear to people out there watching. Like my website, musicals101.com, I'll say this discussion show is a safe space for people who love musicals, who love working on them, who love watching them, who love creating them. In a world where people believe that the more boom booms per minute make a movie better, we believe that the more great songs, the more moments of unforgettable talent in a musical are the things that make life better. So we're big proponents of musicals here. And the fact that we fell in love with them when we were in high school and college, why not? Why not? Other people were falling in love with Get It Past the 30-yard line, with making, a slam dunk, with figuring out the difference between. Figuring out the difference between a goal and a hockey puck. It's fascinating. But you know what? No, sorry.
Sports, okay.
No, I'm sorry.
And
I'm sorry. Sports were invented so that inherently stupid people could pretend that they can sound intelligent talking about a subject. There is nothing dumber than being stuck on New Jersey Transit, going in or out of Manhattan, and having two people on their way to work on a morning turn to one another. So what do you think about those Jets last night? And then they start talking facts and plays and moves.
Because they care.
No. Everybody sitting around them is looking for a sharp object. by the time, and we're talking they go on for a full hour and nothing can stop them short of a coronary. So don't even get me started. So I refuse to be ashamed of loving musicals anymore. We sit here now, and as shamelessly as they bore everyone within earshot when they're on their train, we will provide interesting, witty conversations talking about showstoppers. Now, what's a showstopper? That's an easy one.
It just happened.
Yes, it's a it's a self-defining word. A showstopper is literally a song that stops everything and makes you take notice. Let's talk a bit about the history of showstoppers. Let's go back to the first big mega hit on Broadway. The first multi-million-dollar Broadway smash musical was called The Black Crook. Now, the plot of this 1866 musical, just a year after the Civil War, involved the evil Count Wolfenstein, who wants to marry a young maiden. She's the one you see fainted there in the arms of her artist boyfriend. And he calls forth, with the help of his crook-backed black magician, a master of black magic, hence the title, The Black Crook. They call forth an army of demons from Satan in hell. Well, this girl and her boyfriend have been befriended by Stalacta, the queen of the fairies. I'm not making this up. And she...
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not that there's anything wrong with an army of fairies. And her army of female fairies in Amazon costumes comes out, and they defeat the forces of hell. Now, that's the plot. But the maiden, Amina is her name, has a chambermaid in her house. Her parents obviously have a few bucks. And at one point in the show, her chambermaid, who was played by a British music hall star, got up and sang this number, "You Naughty, Naughty Men." Oh, I really can't deceive you, but I never will believe you. Da, 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 da. Oh, you naughty, naughty men. Stopped the show, had to do an encore opening night. It had nothing whatsoever to do with the plot, but it was fun. That's all that people cared about in 1866. So let's skip forward to 1903. The Wizard of Oz is the big new hit on Broadway. The novel had been published the year before, and L. Frank Baum authorized and was involved with an attempt to turn it into a musical. You will notice here that the poppies were very big. You will notice that Dorothy is a young lady in her mid-20s who's got a thing for two of the farmers who happen to look just like the Tin Man and the Scarecrow because they're played by the same actor. And you'll notice there's an extra woman in the group. She's asleep on a cow all the way over on the right-hand side. Well, they decided to give Dorothy a cow instead of a dog because Toto the dog would just not have been big enough to be seen in the second balcony. So instead, they had a person in a cow costume. Now, the star of the show was not the girl who played Dorothy. It was the two guys, Montgomery and Stone, who you see here. They played the Scarecrow and the Tin Man. They were vaudeville stars. They were well known for their shtick. And they were so popular, everyone was coming to see them. They were the star attraction. Well, the Showstopper, none of the songs in this version of The Wizard of Oz wound up in the famous MGM movie. Not one of them. The big hit number, the Showstopper, was called Hurrah for Baffin's Bay. And there you see Montgomery and Stone in a ship. They're going off sailing on Baffin's Bay. And they sing this song. Well, everybody loved it. They had to do an encore at practically every performance. For those of you who do not know, Baffin's Bay is a body of water that sits between the northernmost Canadian islands and Greenland. It's up in the Arctic frickin' Circle. It has about as much to do with munchkins and witches as the far side of Mars. It just made no sense whatsoever, but audiences loved it. Montgomery and Stone became bigger stars than ever. And in fact, Fred Stone, the man who played the Scarecrow, was such a huge star that one of his fans years later, Ray Bolger, when he was hired by MGM to play the Tin Man, said, "Look, I'll play whatever role you want me to, but please let me do the Scarecrow. I've dreamt all my life of playing that part." Now, these disconnected showstoppers were standard up until the 1940s. In the 1940s, along came these guys named Rogers and Hammerstein. And with Oklahoma, they suddenly made it essential that everything in a show be part of the show. It's when songwriters became literally dramatists. As Richard Rogers put it, it's not just the words had to sound like the music. The sets had to look like the orchestrations sounded. It all had to be of a part. So when the song Oklahoma stops that show dead cold, it's because it comes from the heart of the characters and speaks to the heart of the audience. When we say Yip-I-O-E-A, we're only saying you're doing fine, Oklahoma, okay. That was something audiences could relate to in the middle of World War II. So from that point on, a real showstopper had to be rooted in the plots and characters of the shows. Probably the greatest of all showstoppers, the one that is most accepted, respected, no matter where it's done, is the title song of Hello, Dolly. My dear Carol Channing performed that show more than 4,500 times. Oh, my God. And she was fresh right up to the end. I saw her last week on Broadway, and she was still delivering the goods. Now, you would think a showstopper is a tough thing to create, and frankly, it is. Now, let's take a look at one in particular. Grand Hotel was written by Vicki Baum. It was a play. It was not a big hit, but MGM bought the rights to it in 1932, and it was producer Irving Thalberg who said, you know what, with the Depression at its worst, people are not showing up in theaters in their usual numbers. Let's not just give them one star who they'll want to come see. Let's give them an entire list of stars. So the first all-star film ever, any one of the people starring in this film, all the way from Greta Garbo down to Jean Hersholt, all of them would normally have been the one big star headlining a movie.
Is that Jean Hersholt of the Academy Awards?
Yes,
the Jean Hersholt Award for charity?
Yes,
okay.
The same Jean Hersholt, known for his amazing generosity and kindness to others, and he was tremendously, very, very much a good deed doer. Thank you.
Who did he play?
He plays one of the not the doormen, but one of the men in the lobby who. He's head of the staff that is taking care of the people in the Grand Hotel. Big fellow with a mustache. He's the one whose photo is not there.
Okay.
Now, two people who are huge stars in this film were real life brothers Lionel and John Barrymore. Lionel plays an accountant who is dying. It's not obvious of what, but he has some wasting disease. And he has quit his job, taken his life savings, and he's come to stay at the Grand Hotel in Berlin so that he can just know some hint of grandeur and elegance in his drab and boring life. And he is in the lobby. He encounters and is immediately befriended by Baron von Geiger, a very elegant aristocrat, played in this case by his brother, John Barrymore, who is actually deep in debt and facing disaster. But he doesn't show that. Instead, he shows this poor man some empathy. It's a very minor moment when he says, why don't you meet me in the bar tonight for a drink? They meet. There is a nasty encounter with another character, but there's no real great, sense of joy in their meeting in the bar. Now, back in the 1950s, two men, that's Wright and Forrest, the two guys you see there. They were partners in private life and partners professionally. They were very good looking, a very good looking duo, and they were together all through their very long lives. They lived healthy and well and writing into their 80s. Their Broadway musicals included the huge hit Kismet, the not huge hit Anya, which was about Anastasia, the Romanov princess. And they put together in the 1950s a musical version of Grand Hotel. Now, It opened in San Francisco and it closed in San Francisco. The show was not going too well. It starred Paul Muni as the dying accountant, and he was very much the star of the show. However, the directors were not happy with it. The producers were not happy with it. What happened then was Joan Diener, who many know as the original Aldonza in Man of La Mancha, or as La Lume in Kismet. She had worked with Forrest and Wright before. She was furious that it was Paul Muni who said, "I quit, the show is over," because she thought the show had potential. Knowing that Paul Muni was very much a prude, on closing night in San Francisco, she came out in a flowing robe and she took her bow. And as she turned around, she faced him, threw open the robe, and flashed him. She was totally naked except for a rose that was sticking out of a very painful place in front of her. And he nearly lost his dentures standing there on stage looking at her. Completely blew him. The show disappeared for a long time.
Hard to find good vases. It just is.
Yes. Well, so for 3 decades, the show was pretty much forgotten until it was written about in a little book that's called Not Since Carrie by Ken Mendelbaum. And it got the attention of this man, Tommy Tune, who was the wunderkind of Broadway at that time. Everything he touched turned to gold. Tommy looked at this show and said, "I see possibilities here."
What had he done, even though I know the answers, but give us a few.
Oh, Lord. Tommy had won his first Tony performing in the musical Seesaw, which he contributed choreography to. As both a performer and as a choreographer and director, he was connected with such hits as My One and Only, Day in Hollywood, Night in the Ukraine. He would also eventually be connected with the Tony-winning hits. 9 had already happened here.
Don't forget Whorehouse.
Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. Of course, he was the original director and choreographer for that. And later on, he would direct and choreograph Will Rogers' Follies. He would also direct and choreograph Best Little Whorehouse Goes Public, which was not a good idea, but everybody has their disasters. The biggest people in this business have all had a flop at some point or another. Well, Tommy brought in Maury Yeston to add some new songs, which did not please Forrest and Wright. They were pissed as hell about that. But they were delighted when one of their songs, We'll Take a Glass Together, turned out to be one of the 2 or 3 big show-stopping moments in this show. Now, originally, it was performed by David James Carroll playing the Baron. He left the cast after a certain number of weeks because he was moving into an advanced state of HIV/AIDS illness. And in fact, he would have his final collapse while contributing his voice to the original cast album. He's only on a couple of tracks. By the time they got to this number, it was recorded instead by the gentleman you see in this photo, Brent Barrett. He's the taller gentleman. And the smaller one playing the dying accountant, the wonderful actor Michael Jeter. Some of you may remember him from Burt Reynolds had a TV show. His sitcom. Do you remember what it was called, Bill?
No, and as soon as you brought that up, I said, "Oh, he's going to ask me."
Darn, we forgot. But anyway, he would wind up being an Emmy winner.
I'll have my staff look it up quickly.
Okay, but before he won his Emmy, he won a Tony Award for this wonderful performance. Here is now. Just watch this Showstopper. You've got great performers. You've got a great setup. And you've got marvelous direction and choreography. Let me make one statement here before we go to that. What I always told my students, it's in my book, it's on my website, it's in my classes, is that there are 3 things that go into a great musical.
Evening Shade. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but he got it for Evening Shade. Evening
Shade. Thank you. That was the name of the series. The 3 things that make a great musical also make a real showstopper. Brains, heart, and courage. And you thought that was just a plot twist in MGM's Wizard of Oz? Oh, no. You need the intelligence. It takes tremendous intelligence to build a showstopper. They don't happen by accident. It takes great intelligence. It takes tremendous emotional power. It's got to be a moment that audiences connect with. And it's got to take the courage to do something that hasn't quite been done that way before. Look at the choreography. It is not standard. These men are standing at a bar having a drink. Tommy Tune, God, his sense of concept was always amazing.
Look at the bar too.
Right.
It's an actual bar.
He didn't have them stand at a typical wooden bar that would have blocked them from the audience. Instead, he had two actors in costume holding up a golden colored bar of metal, a metal bar, and that becomes the bar. And oh, how the actors make use of what they are given. We'll take a glass together.
We'll take a glass together in celebration of our meeting, in celebration of our being face to face, friendly, civilized, members of the race. I'll drink to you. No, I to you. You'll drink to me. Then you to me. I'm sure we do. Oh, I know we do, but by no finer company. Thank you, Baron. We'll take a glass together, and we will lift it to the good life. And as we're lifting it, we will most sincerely say, Prosit, your health, sir. Salute, and skål. Nostrovia. Almost rasante. For one brief moment in this cold and careless day, we'll take a glass together.
The chorus has no clear connection to them visually. They're in their own celebration.
I'm sure it's true. Oh, I know it's true. Things may be bad, but could be worse. Absolutely. We'll ask no why or whether. We'll spend each moment, yes, we will, as it moves us. As it moves us. Oh, my comrade. Lift the neck
So
of
good.
the day. Sheriff.
Whoa.
Got whiskey, got fruit, a cognac, and absinthe buffet. For one more moment in a world gone cold and crass, we'll take a glass together. We'll take a glass together, and we will lift it to the good life. And as we're lifting it, we will most sincerely say, Prosit, your concern, salute, and skål. Nostrovia, almost salvante. For one more moment in this golden careless day, we'll celebrate, we'll take a glass, we'll celebrate, we'll take a glass.
Right through the bar. And now the bar is removed. Magic. Pure magic. Now, I remember I was at like the second or third preview of this, which was at what is now called the Hirschfeld Theater. And I was sitting in the orchestra section with my ex, may he enjoy life until I find him in hell. And we went just because it was a Tommy Tune show. I was going to see whatever Tommy did. It's not like I mentioned Frank's name. So what are you worried about?
You said it. Sorry.
So anyway, we're sitting there. The beginning of the show is very dark, but very elegant.
Lots of chairs.
There's a lot of chairs. There's a lot of marching. Grand people come. The famous line about Grand Hotel is the doctor who injects himself with heroin to start the show.
Fun.
Yeah. And there's the famous line from the movie, Grand Hotel. People come, people go. Nothing changes. I think I'll say another day. Now that's the famous line. And it became people come, people go. And it was lovely. The score by both, and I'm on the side of both sets of composers. Maury Yeston is a freaking genius. This is the man who did Titanic. I worship at his feet. I think he's out of this world. 9, out of this world. Death Takes a Holiday, so underrated. What a great, great songwriter. But Forrest and Wright's songs were extraordinary too. We'll Take a Glass Together is old-fashioned Broadway kick-ass songwriting. Everyone can emotionally connect with that number because we've known that moment where you're getting to know someone and what the heck, let's go out and have a drink. And there's that connection. And whether that drink is an adult beverage or coffee at Starbucks, you've known that moment when over a beverage, friendship got going. Even if, or what the hell, even if it was a milkshake at Carvel, I don't care. There's over a beverage, friendship can erupt, and that's what's happening here. And when you have the extra lubrication that alcohol provides, you have the extra giddiness that his character knows, and we've known that feeling. Sometimes that feeling means you wind up with someone you shouldn't have gone home with, but that's part of life.
From the moment I also saw the show, and God, just think of how many years ago it was. By the way, I was 5 at the time.
Yeah.
From the moment he comes on the set, there'd be Michael Jeter. He plays a old, not doddering, but something's wrong. Clearly, he's ill, and you kind of like him, but you're like, okay, this is a dark musical for the most part. And you like him right away, but you think something's off. And in my head, I kind of said, well, I hope they don't have too much of him. And then there's a kind of a dance someplace in there, where people are dancing with each other. And he dances with Jane Krakowski, who was brand new at the time.
Yes.
Frida Flips, something or other, right there.
Flemschen.
And she's not tall, but he's so small that the two of them together are a horrible mismatch. And he's adorable. And I actually really, really liked him instantly. But
you like her for being kind to him.
Yes. She's asked to be kind to everyone you think is sort of out for themselves, except for him, even though, well, he might be out for himself too, because he wants to get his last grasp of life. But then we get to this bar, and it's the number. I never forgot it. It really is a showstopper.
Yeah.
It isn't a huge set like Hello Dolly. He was so magnificent and so lovable and so adorable that what we're watching, by the way, is we're watching a clip from the Tony Awards.
Yeah.
5 minutes later, he wins. Okay. He's behind stage when they give him the award because, well, he comes out and gets
the Tony telecast. Yes.
And I swear, if they had not given it to him that year, I was probably going to throw something at the TV because he was that good. I envy when somebody does a role that I will never, ever be able to do because I'm, just not the right look or anything. And I'm not going to say proud of him, but when do we have a clip from the Tonys? We're not doing that, right? We're not doing the clip.
No, we don't have the actual Tony ceremony.
You learn at the Tony Award at the clip, he gets up and says something about dreams do come true, often said, these aren't his exact words, but for people who obviously he had issues with drugs and alcohol. He says that. I'm not revealing something that he isn't proud of that he has recovered from.
He spoke openly about it afterwards.
And then he starts to cry. And I just went, it just is lovely. But back to the number. It is amazing. It is one of the best of all time. And I certainly didn't see it coming.
Now, and there are 2 other showstoppers before it in the show. First is when Flemschen shows up and she does a song about, I want to be a movie star. Now, part of that is because it's the first in a dark show. These are the 3 up numbers. They are the 3 numbers with joy in them. And joy becomes all the more powerful when it's surrounded by darkness. And yes, I know kitty cats are walking by. This is a house of cats, folks. They're around. Flemschen's I want to be a movie star.
Crawling under the desk right now for me.
Flemschen's I want to be a movie star. Fantastic. Wonderful. And Jane Krakowski, it was her debut. It was the moment when Broadway went, who dat? Who dat? We want to know who that be. And she became one of our most beloved performers in musical theater. A little bit later, David James Carroll. Now, at the performance I attended, Forrest and Wright were in the back of the orchestra, sitting by the doorway. So was Tommy Tune, and so was Maury Yeston. They were all there. And David James Carroll takes Liliane Montevecchi in his arms. He's come into her hotel room. The Baron comes into the ballerina's hotel room to steal her diamonds. But instead, he sees her and admits to her that he's loved her all his life. And she says, well, this is impossible. And he does a number called a gorgeous tenor solo called Love Can't Happen. Love can't happen quite so quickly. And David James Carroll.
I was wondering if you were going to try to hit the note. Go on.
Criminetti's no. I'm not going to do that to a gorgeous Maury Yeston tune. He sent that voice soaring to heaven, and I know.
Oh, I guess you're going to try to hit the
that
note.
voice soaring, and the audience sat there. And when it was done, I mean, that huge roar of approval. And I looked back, and Forrest and Wright were storming out of the theater, and Yeston and Tune were hugging.
Wait, because
that was Yeston's
Maury
number,
Yeston's song,
not one of. But you know
beautiful.
What? They were foolish because they should have stayed, and they would have seen Michael Jeter and David James Carroll
do this number. Correct.
Do their number to a turn, and that number also the audience would not let the show go on. And I've got to say this: Tune, when Tommy Tune is at his best, no one can touch him. No one. He's extraordinary. Oh, and thank you, Broadway Barfly, for telling us also it was Evening Shade. Sorry, I didn't see that sooner. The magic, the sheer magic of what Tommy pulled off in that number. You've got the totally disconnected ensemble. They're not looking.
They're doing everything in complete. They're doing the Charleston, obviously.
Yes.
And they're doing everything in complete unison, which is absolutely. Oh wait, are we going to go through it? Wait, I'm going to stop. Okay, because I'm just going to say first.
I'm just going to bring this up a bit. There.
Look at their hands. Look at the guy's hands. There's no glasses there, and trust me, this is not easy to do. And Jeter absolutely perfectly mimes, and not that Bartlett is bad. He's not. He's great. Look at that. He has the top of rim and everything. But look at Jeter put the glass down. Doesn't even sort of really totally pay attention to it. I know this sounds stupid, but it's not. There's a craft to this. He's now going to pour.
Look at the bottle. You can see. He sees the bottle, and he makes sure you can see it.
It's the actor in me that went, oh my God. Okay. Now,
I got to tell you that anyone is on stage at the same time as Brent Barrett, and I'm not just looking at Brent Barrett. That says a lot. Because Brent Barrett is one of the most drop-dead gorgeous actors in the business. The night I met him after a performance at Paper Mill, the hand that shook him, I didn't want to wash for a week, but of course I did. He was just and such a nice guy, too. Everyone who works with either of these guys has loved them. Michael Jeter has, of course, since passed away. Brent Barrett is alive, well, and please, I can't wait to see him again in anything. But just look at the way the stage is filled.
It's perfect. It's everything in the back is perfect. And the reason that it's perfect is so that when you look at Michael Jeter, he's supposed to be imperfect. But look at his feet. Yeah. They're doing circles. I had to study this like 12 times to figure out what the hell he was doing.
And I don't know how he doesn't break his neck on that move.
It's amazing. It's like, it's beautiful.
No work. Other show tune that I know of, and certainly no Showstopper, had the ensemble for much of the number with their backs to the audience. Dancing with your backs to the audience is against the rules. The waiters are looking at the audience while they're singing to Dolly, not here. Now they want to bring the focus forward. Now the power of the human face, the fact that they're facing forward. And you may not know this. You see the very short actor in the middle of that shot? That is the actor who played Toby in the original Sweeney Todd. He was not at all uncomfortable with taking a smaller ensemble role in this show because you know what? Being in a hit is being in a hit is being in a hit. And Grand Hotel was the longest running American musical on Broadway of the 1980s.
Look at the joy in their faces. And also the absolute honor they give to Jeter. They know he's about to win the Tony, but look, they're all looking at him.
Thrilled.
Even though in the musical they do the same thing. It is just, it's a great number. It's a great number.
No, it's thrilled. Now, I want to share something with the audience. Before you go thinking, well, it's just these great performers or just this great director that makes this number work.
Although it does help.
This is a young man who I had the honor of teaching at New York University Steinhardt. His name is Drew Carr.
John, you taught at NYU?
I taught at NYU Steinhardt for 13 years. Very proud to have done so. Now, Drew is a very talented singer, actor, and dancer. And he has posted this video from when our school did Grand Hotel. And for at the end of each run, they would have what they called professional night. And on professional night, you invite in people from the industry. Well, we got Tommy Tune to come. And the video that you're about to see is from a performance that took place with Tommy in the audience. Let's move this forward just a bit.
They had a real bar.
Now, notice here we used a real bar. Drew is playing the accountant role.
In celebration of our being face-to-face, civilized members of the race, I'll drink to you.
No, I to you.
You'll drink to me.
Thank you.
I'm sure we
Sorry, the video's misbehaving a bit.
will find a finer company.
Thank you, Beverly.
They'll take a glass together.
I'm going to move it forward just because the video is misbehaving, and I want to show you Drew and company stopping the show.
Campari.
Scotch whiskey. Cognac. And acids. For one more moment in a world gone cold and crass.
We'll take a glass together.
We'll take a glass together. And after listening, take a moment till we say, you'll sit, your concern, salute, and score. Australia, Abuja, in this cold and careless day.
Catch your breath video. Now that's the numbers, fun, and magic. You'll notice in no way did we copy what Tommy Tune had done. It was a totally different approach, but it worked brilliantly. That's a great showstopper. They work wherever they're done with sense. It's
not always.
No, and you can ruin a showstopper.
Oh, yeah.
Let me talk about someone ruining a showstopper. Classic showstopper. Little Girls in Annie. You do that number like Dorothy Loudon did. You do that number properly, and it knocks audiences for a loop. And then there was why am I forgetting her name? It's because God loves me. She won the Tony Award for Ain't Misbehavin'. Nell Carter. When Nell Carter played Miss Hannigan in the first revival of Annie, she phoned it in. I mean, she phoned it in. It was the most despicable performance I would ever see until I saw Peter O'Toole play Henry Higgins drunk. That was different. That was another you-know-what show. But she got up and Little Girls died. I mean, she sat on the song. And when that woman sat on something, it was in deep trouble. She sat on that poor song. There wasn't a giggle in it. If you do not get a giggle with that song, boy, did you mess up. And she messed up. Now, I just saw Beth Level do it a couple of years ago out here at Paper Mill. They did the best production of Annie I have seen since the original. And her Miss Hannigan, She chewed the scenery, she chewed the lights, she chewed the boards of the stage. There was no limit to her comedy. And at the end of Little Girls opening night, Paper Mill, the audience did not let the show go on. You just trust the material with a showstopper. It will work. You do not need hydraulics. You do not need a chandelier falling or a helicopter taking off. You need talented people kicking ass. That's, I mean, in my opinion, what you need for a showstopper. I and you, when we did our shows as kids, we had no special effects. All we had was lighting, costumes, makeup, and something passing for an orchestra. Oh, God. Oh, in our college, the orchestra was so dreadful. Oh, how dreadful was it?
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they're watching now.
Oh, that's fine.
We appreciate them.
The rector of the school, because the school we went to, as we mentioned, was a college seminary. The rector was the violinist. He was the best thing in the orchestra. Oh my God! Thank God we had him. He kept us going. Monsignor Granelone, God bless him. He kept the orchestra going. Him and the guy on the French horn. That was it. Okay. Now let's get into current events, shall we? Do you have any news events for me?
All right. I am super thrilled to announce that the Kennedy Center Honors have decided to Kennedy Center Honors. Usually that's done every year around Christmas time. 5 people get nominated and honored, and they are Barry Gordy, Joni Mitchell, Lon Michaels, Justino Diaz, and drum roll, Bette Midler.
Hey, jokers, chuckers, and smokers
are throwing confetti and throwing their bras and their mermaid things. I am extremely thrilled. John,
I have FTS'd myself into a stupor.
Can you give us a Sophie Tucker joke? Bette Midler is famous for her Sophie Tucker
joke. For those who don't know, Sophie Tucker was one of the great stars of vaudeville. And Bette Midler just loves to perpetuate Soph's memory by telling real Sophie Tucker jokes and jokes that have been written for her by such great comedy masters as Bruce Vilanch.
And one of probably Bruce Vilanch.
Oh yes, one of her most brilliant ones recently has been. Recently, my boyfriend Ernie was away on vacation, so I went over to the old sunshine the old Sunrise old folks home, and I bumped into my old friend Mr. Smithers, who said, "Soph, your boyfriend Ernie's away. Well, today is the day we will finally have relations." An hour later, as we laid back in his room, enjoying a post-coital cigarette, he said to me, "Soph, if I'd known you were a virgin, I'd have been much more gentle." I said, "Smithers, if I knew you could get it up, I would have taken off my pantyhose." Now, the funny thing is, if you tell that
just lost the convent again.
Oh, well, if you tell that joke to a group of college students, which I have done, they sit there and go, "Oh." You tell that to a room full of seniors at some of my group, and they love it. They get it. That to them, that they appreciate it. But those Sophie Tucker jokes.
Anyway, we are absolutely, and we're thrilled. It's absolutely it's long overdue, and the ceremony will be December 5th. The night before 9/11, 9/10 at the Lincoln Memorial, the Broadway musical Come From Away will be done in its entirety in concert form, but it will be done, I believe, on the steps. Don't hold me to that. I'm not totally sure, or maybe in the concourse area, but Come From Away. Come From Away is a musical about the planes that could not land in all over the country, so they had to land in Canada because 9/11 had just happened, the attack, and therefore the planes all landed in one small town in Canada. And it is written by my classmate from the Actors Studio, Irene Sankoff, and her husband David Hine, who even slept in our house, which means that I could probably say I slept with the people who wrote Come From Away. Yet I was not cast in it in any way, shape, or form, but I am available.
Listen, that show is an underrated gem. Underrated gem. I believe it won. Did it win the Olivier? I think.
Oh, I should know that.
Win the Tony.
The reason it didn't get the Tonys is because of it was Dear Evan Hansen, but it won direction, which is well deserved.
The thing is, it's a show that I think is going to have a huge afterlife in amateur theater. It's going to be done at every college, at every high school. It's a way to teach 9/11 history. It's going to, Where my mom lives, up in the Hudson Valley,
Spit it
the
out.
town centers, the town of Wappingers Falls centers around the old movie theater where 5 times a year, sometimes more, sometimes less because of COVID, but the local community theater puts on productions, and those productions are the lifeblood of that town. The whole town comes to life when there's a show. And that's the kind of place where I know Come From Away is going to it's going to be a dream come true when they get to do that show. It's delightful stuff. It's what we need, shows that can be done without a whole lot of hydraulic nonsense.
Chairs, believe it or not. We're going to have chairs again.
Chairs.
Billy Elliot and Grand Hotel and Come From Away. Chairs,
and the greatest special effect of all, human talent. Talent. Nothing like it. No chandelier or helicopter can beat it. On
August 14th, PBS is going to broadcast it is a new documentary, but it's a continuation of a previous one. A lot of people have been waiting for this. It is called Beyond the Golden Age, 59 to 83 Broadway. So it covers those years and has all kinds of talent from it with Glenn Close, Alec Baldwin. I can't remember them all right now. Well, give me a second. Cheetah, Carol, Liza Minnelli, that kind of thing.
If they were alive in the last 10 years, they're in it.
And those are major years. That's pretty much West Side Story up through Rent or something in that general area. I don't know for sure.
You mentioned that.
I know. But Rent was around there. Yes. Okay. Now we're going to get to the next topic at hand. I'll introduce it and I'll let John go, and then I'll come guys and talk about it. Mm-hmm. So today, or maybe it was yesterday, but I believe it was today. I should know this, but in the last 24 hours, Equity is the union for actors throughout the country. It's not just New York. It is for actors who perform on stage, and also for stage hands, stage managers. It is the union you strive to be in, and I am blessed and very fortunate to be a member of the Actors Studio. Takes a lot of work. May I interrupt here?
You had to bust your banana to get into that union, didn't you? You had to meet all kinds of requirements. How long did the process take?
Oh, in my case, wait, hold on. 10 years? 10
years to earn your equity card. All right.
Yes.
And why do you want that equity card?
Okay, well, there are negatives, but I'm going to go for the positive. The positive is that, of course, there's a certain amount of prestige and honor, meaning I'm very proud to say I'm an equity member. I remember the day I got it.
Why are you proud to say you're an equity member? What does it signify?
It signifies that you're a professional actor and that you've accomplished something, meaning they just don't give them out. You have to earn the thing. I remember I got the card and I was walking up the theater district, 42nd, and a mentally challenged man for some reason was following behind me. You, and I was like, oh my God. And he said, are you an actor? And I almost wanted to go, well, no, because I wasn't. I'm not on the billboards or any of the. And then I said, yes, I am. And I wanted to hold up the card and go, yes, I am. Where were we going with this? Hold on. So today or yesterday, they changed the ability to get in to become a member. They call it open access. Do you want to take it from here, John? You want me to keep going?
Yeah. So instead of spending up to 10 years and sometimes more of your life accruing all of the requirements,
if you're really lucky, you could hit it lucky. You could
hit it lucky by having Hal Prince walk up to you and say, "Hi, you're my nephew. I want you to star in the next production of Phantom of the Opera." So the union has to give you an equity card. That's
doesn't
different.
Have to be the nephew. Some people hit it lucky and are
some
just the right look.
And I know none by name. It is legend. It's right up there, with women who have virgin births. I really don't know any.
The Billy Elliots. Each one of them was new, and all three of them certainly turned out to be exceptional.
It can happen. It can happen. You should only know that it can happen. However, now instead of taking 10 years to get your membership, all you have to do is prove that you have gotten paid to act or stage manage somewhere in the United States. If you can show pay stubs or a contract that says you were paid to act or stage manage anywhere, you are suddenly now qualified to be a member of Actors Equity. Now,
it means you're eligible. Doesn't mean you're in, because there's one more factor. You still have to pay the initiation fee, which right now is $1,700. It'll be $1,800, I think, January 22nd, 22.
Right. Now, why did Equity do this? Well, officially, they did it because they want to be more encompassing and more welcoming. Unofficially, COVID has been a disaster for everyone in the theater industry, including the unions, because suddenly a lot of their members have had to drop out. They can't afford to. Usually, every year when a new group of actors comes out of college, comes out of the acting schools, they start on the process to becoming equity actors. They begin earning their membership. And for this past year and a half, now we're heading toward more than a year and a half, there's been no way to do that. It's stopped everything cold. And equity membership has fallen. Declined. Plus, people have been dying. There are a lot of actors died. So I asked people on my Facebook feed what they feel. And from former students of mine, these are some of the reactions I'm getting. Long term, it's a good thing. Short term, unfortunate growing pains. If Equity is hands-on with the smaller regional markets, they can mitigate some of those growing pains. Good point. Another former student of mine wrote, and let me get it all, I wish they'd call it what it is, a money grab, rather than try to say it's about inclusion. If it were about inclusion, they would lower the damn dues, as it is only those who can afford it who can join, and saying it's in an effort to include more sets things up. It's just curious how the solution they chose to Equity's inclusion problem is also the one that makes Equity the most money.
Dues are $176 a year more if you've earned more in the year.
Right. Long term, it's probably good, but how long remains to be seen. Another person simply filled up their answer with dollar signs. Another person wrote, is it good or bad? A little of both. My feeling, I have never been a professional actor. I worked for producers. Producers and unions are natural enemies. But when you're a producer's assistant, you also learn to look at what the unions go through. Keep in mind, before Actors Equity existed, actors had no pay during rehearsals, had no contracts to keep them working.
If the show closed, they were dead in the water and had to get home.
Right. If the show stayed open, after opening night, a producer could say, you got great reviews. You want to stay in this show? I'm cutting your salary in half. And you had no defense. Now, Actors Equity would be there to defend you. Also, did you know this, Bill?
You have to be insured, too. They make sure you're insured during the run.
Before Equity, you had to pay for your costume, but you did not own it.
Correct.
So let's say you were in a Shakespeare play. Let's say you're playing King Claudius. You've got to pay for the freaking crown. You've got to pay for the raiment. It's a very expensive costume. And if you get fired, it belongs to the producer. But you, the actor, it was taken out of your salary to pay for it.
Now, if you provide something, now they give you something. They give you, if you provide the uniform, then you get paid for it. You get the money for the value of it.
But normally, the actor, it's the producer's problem to pay for a new costume. Normally, that's the way it should be. And there were terrible advantages taken of actors before the union came along. Now, of course, I also sat in on, I can remember once I won't say which producers it was, we're putting together a road tour of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella. This is before it ever played Broadway. Totally different production. No big stars. It was going to be a bus and truck Equity production. And they sat down with Equity and they said, now we're looking to do, multi-ethnic casting here. We're going to have, this, we're going to have that. The woman who was the Equity rep we were talking to said, there's just one thing. She was a black woman. She said, there's just one thing I want to know. How many black men are going to be in this production? Well, we don't have a set number. Look, don't talk to me about Asians. Don't talk to me about women. Talk to me about black men. I want to know how many. For some reason, that was her obsession. And finally, I just looked at her across the table and I said, why? Are you looking to date one? And she got very upset. And everyone was like, calm down, calm down, calm down. And she was like, well, what kind of racist comment is that? I said, no, it's not racist. You're telling me we have to have a certain number of black mice pulling that carriage. when they become horses. Come on, we're not going to give you a set number. So some people sometimes dealing with equity could be fascinating. It depended upon the individual. It was different back in the days when someone like Colleen Dewhurst was the president and she had clout. She could look at any producer on Broadway and say, I am more important than you are. Don't talk to me that way. The current president of Actors Equity is a lovely young lady. She's the youngest president Equity has ever had. And I think she's made a very brave choice here. She's not a big star. She's just a professional actress who's been in the business and she knows this stuff. I think it's a very noble thing they're trying. I think it remains to be seen how this is going to pan out.
It makes auditions now will have, I keep leaning forward. I have to stop doing that. Auditions now, one of the reasons you join Equity, besides the protection,
right,
is that when you audition for something, there aren't 50,000 people up for it.
Right.
There's 5,000, and that number is ridiculous, but you get the point. Now there might possibly be 10,000, and so there are more people. So that is concerning. But I also understand that there needs to be a bit more diversity, I guess. And when I say I guess is on my auditions, I didn't notice that as much. I felt it was almost equal. And this is years ago. But there will be more people. I want to say one of the negatives about joining Equity, again, I'm very proud, is though it does cost a lot to get in, a lot. So even though these people are allowed to get in, doesn't mean they can get in,
right,
although there are going to be payment plans, I believe. Another problem is that, therefore, for the rest of your stage life, you can only do Equity.
Right.
So if you live on Long Island, for example, even though Kevin Harrington, for example, has now opened up, Kevin Harrington was another one of our schoolmates, has opened up an Equity stage on Long Island. A number of the stages are not Equity, which means that I cannot do them whatsoever. If I get caught being in them, I lose my Equity card. And so I don't want to say toured. I've done a lot of a play called The Guys, and I had to fight every time to do it. And we were able to get loopholes, which basically meant I didn't get any money,
right?
Because we made the money be the income. The money coming in went to charities, things like that. One of the things actors, we all want to work as in act our craft so much that unfortunately we're willing to do it for free.
Yeah.
And don't you know it, producers know that.
Oh yeah. They know that about the people who work in the office too, that we absolutely loved what we did.
We want to be there.
And for a time, for about 2 years, I lived at the Stuyvesant House complex on the east side of Manhattan. If you've never been there, it's a beautiful set of high-rise apartment buildings, high-rise by 1940 standards. And it was built for veterans at the end of World War II. But it's a gorgeous complex. Thousands of people live there. It was meant to create affordable apartments that now cost the moon. But I lived there with a friend for a time. And one morning when I was not doing anything, it was a gorgeous morning, just like today, I went and sat in one of the benches. It was they have a lot of park that surrounds the buildings. And I watched people on the way to work. And they looked like they were all headed to dental surgery.
Did I mention that I'm retiring this week, John?
God bless you. But that awful look, but you enjoyed a lot of what you did. You enjoyed a lot of that job. Yeah, at its best, you enjoyed it. When I worked for those producers, yes, one of them nearly drove me to a mental breakdown, but overwhelmingly, I enjoyed what I did. I've dealt with obnoxious administrators as a teacher, but I loved teaching. And I've loved what I've done. This is why I'm going to face poverty in my old age. That's fine. But I at least have my health and have my mental health, and I don't have ulcers, and I don't have a body that looks at me and goes, oh God, I don't want to get up this morning. I love getting up to do what I do, creating things like this, going out and doing talks. Creating the talks is such a. This week I had no talks to do, and so I have been working on new talks all, hour upon hour. And my partner just sits back and goes, my God, are you ever going to get out of that computer? But he also says, look at you, you're having a ball. You just love what you're doing. You
were watching all these people go off to work.
And I just sat back and thought, thank God I got involved with theater. Thank God I didn't go into something I would hate.
But
so anyway,
here's the deal: is we as actors, we're willing to do it for free. We probably shouldn't, but I want to play that
how
role.
many benefits they want you to do. God, how many benefits. But then, the benefits I got to do, I got to work with people like Carol Channing. That's how I got to really.
You got to do those. I was in the on the Long Island playing the third tree from the left on the production of Into the Woods.
So then I won't rub it in by saying I also got to work with Andrea McCardle, Len Cariou.
Whatever.
Yes, it's Judy Kay. Melissa Errico.
Let's bring them on this show. Oh, I told Melissa Errico's sister. There we go. I have a connection too.
She has a sister? Is her sister an actress?
Oh, I don't know, because she was in second grade with it when I taught them.
Well, but Melissa is such a doll, and God, so as talented and as nice as she is, beautiful and talented. She's such a sweetheart. Everyone, and like me, she experienced Belasco's ghost once in the Belasco Theater, but that's another story. I think this is a beautiful time to end things and to wish everyone a wonderful final week of July that is up ahead of us.
Remind everybody what to do.
Please, if you are enjoying what you see here, hit like and please subscribe. We'd love to have you. If you leave comments, we will read them and we will try to get back to you if we can. Next week, we're not quite sure when the show will take place because someone is going to be celebrating a birthday and I'm going to have 2 lectures
40.
to give that day. Yeah, 40. Oh, another anniversary, eh?
Yes,
yeah.
We're probably going to do it Wednesday. I think we're going to do it Wednesday. I think we agree.
We can aim for Wednesday. It makes fun. That's fine by me. And we're, among other things, we're not sure, but we're going to very soon have to talk about this mysterious place called Schmigadoon, because I hear that it rises up out of the mist and you are in a land where everything is musical. Take me there! Take me there now!
Oh, you may be surprised, though. When you get there, it might not be all that it seems.
Well, of course it won't. That's why it's Schmigadoon.
Yes, correct.
If it's Brigadoon, it depends on who's playing Tommy. Then I'll, see, the best Tommy I ever saw was actually Brent Barrett, the guy who we were watching earlier.
No. Well, we get Aaron Tveit in Brigadoon. Oh.
He was out of this world in Brigadoon. Bill, you have a wonderful evening. I'll be seeing you tomorrow. We're going to get together, the 2 of us, for the first time in years.
We're going to plot out some things that we're going to possibly do in the future. But tonight, I'm going to watch lots of sports. Because sports are good. Right, John? Good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for tuning in.
Bye.